we're going to do our toe dip segment where we briefly discuss something we've watched. We want to talk about this last season of Love Island and this cast of Love Island and the discourse around it because there has been a lot going on. For some background, I watched most seasons of Love Island UK. I stopped watching the UK version a few years back, but I've watched every US season pretty much from the beginning. These days, I don't fully commit myself to watching every single episode because the amount of brain cells being drained is a bit much even for me. But I do keep up with the discourse and I will watch the most iconic scenes and episodes.
So like you, I used to watch Love Island heavy in the UK, and I also liked watching the international one, so not just the USA, also Australia. There's a season of Australia that's one of my favourites actually, and a very crazy woman there who was my fave. I have stopped watching it recently though because frankly I'm a black woman. There's only so many times I can watch the same storyline of black women being denigrated, men acting as if black women are not gorgeous when they clearly are. And so yeah, I started to phase it out as well, and now I just kind of keep up with it when I have time and I watch the discourse. That's about it. So let's talk about the cast of this season of Love Island, and let's start with the black women. So what did you think about Shelley and what did you think about Olandria?
I can't lie to you, I am a bit of an Olandria stan. As a default, we're going into any season of Love Island USA, I'm always rooting for the girlies. I'm always rooting for the black women. Olandria in particular, I was just a fan of because I love her aesthetic. She has a bit of a soft alt aesthetic. She looks kind of like a vampire when she dresses up sometimes in the most gorgeous way. So I'm just a big fan. She's from Alabama and she calls herself the Bama Barbie. I just liked her a lot. And she carried herself in this very interesting way where you can tell she's used to being the responsible person in her family.
Yeah.
And she only allows herself certain limited amounts of vulnerability, allows herself to get upset very few times. It upset me to watch it, but at the same time, I recognized it so strongly. So I generally was quite captivated by Olandria's storyline over the season. Shelley, I liked her. She's gorgeous. She looks like Halle Bailey. The main thing I can say about Shelley's storyline is that I find it wild that in the early episodes of the season, this Haitian woman was partnered up with this shameless MAGA racist who had been posting Haitian eating dogs and cats racist memes. Obviously, she wasn't aware of this. She didn't know this. But I had to sit down and be watching this man romancing her. Meanwhile, I'm like, oh, he has made it clear on the outside he actually hates her people. I've seen people push back on that by saying, oh, those are just political beliefs. He was just reposting Trump stuff. I'm so sorry. I don't remove your politics from your real life feelings, and I don't understand how people do that.
Romance is political, period.
Like, do you really think that he's posting Haitians eating cat and dogs meat just for banter? You think he doesn't share any of that sentiment and the anti-blackness and the xenophobia that is associated with that? Is everybody okay? I have mixed and somewhat controversial thoughts about Huda. The first most important thing I think to note that explains a lot of Huda's behavior with men on the show and with women, especially the black women on the season, that you need to understand that she is one of those women of color who certain parts of her aesthetics and the way she lives her life is modeled on this IG baddie ideal that pulls directly from the features of black women, is optimized on a non-black woman in the eyes of certain kinds of men. And so she's used to getting a certain kind of attention from different kinds of men, but especially black men. So when you put her in an environment with lots of black men where the whole purpose of the show is for people to date and have romantic and sexual flings with each other, and any of those black men are showing an interest and a desire for black women over her, that is just not what she's used to experiencing in real life. And unfortunately, some of these kinds of women, the black men in their lives, have actually spoken derisively of black women and have enabled them to develop certain kinds of superiority complexes about them. I will say, I didn't actually feel that Huda ever spoke in an anti-black tone directly towards the black women, but I will say certain things about her behavior showed a person that was reacting to not being used to black women being chosen over her. I have other thoughts about her mental health and Love Island's duty of care in casting her in the first place.
You're right. Huda doesn't say anything explicitly that's racist. She does weaponize her non-blackness against black women in the sense that when she's immediately running off and crying and taking a big scene over Olandria basically standing up for herself, these are the sorts of things where it's like, you obviously think black women's place in your life is to be a coach for you, is to be soft around you, when you're not soft around other people. Right? She's quite rude to people on the show as well. Having said that, she is a live wire, and I do enjoy seeing women be able to be non-perfect in a setting like a Love Island and get away with it. And she has gotten away with it. Since she's come out, she's attracting huge crowds now. I have no doubt about her social media career going forward. She's absolutely going to kill it. All I'm saying, though, is that I would love to see black women be able to do that on a show like this, and I just don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
There were so many times on this season that Olandria was visibly holding herself back from reacting to many different kinds of people and many different scenarios because of the way that she would be socialized by reacting. I do agree with you, though. I think I don't actually have this very vitriolic reaction to Huda that many people have, because to some degree, I do give quite a bit of grace to women that are misbehaving in public, because I know nobody will, but they would do it for men continuously. Yeah. Also, she's not doing anything that a lot of these men were not enabling. I want to talk about this mutual fetishization that happens between these kind of women of color and black men. So they are fetishizing her for her BBL and her lip filler and her this and her that. And she's fetishizing them because from what we see, her entire dating history is exclusively black or mixed men. The father of her child is black. On the show, she got with Jeremiah, who is my favorite Nigerian scammer from this season. She got with Jeremiah, who thought he could scam his way into the 100K with her before he realized he wasn't actually built for this for real, and he tried to back away.
Yeah.
Then she also got with JD, I believe his name was, before he realized he wasn't built for it either. Then she got with Chris, but Chris wasn't built for it either. And now since she's come out of the villa, she's with Cloud Chaser #1, Lewis. But all I can say about every single one of these men is that you saw the men right before you. You saw all of that crazy and you dove right in. So why should I be crying over your matter?
Yeah. Huda is the type of woman that will make these men pay. Like, she's not going to be a wallflower for you to just enjoy her clout, enjoy everything she offers you, and then you just walk away scot-free. No, if you're going to be with Huda, you're going to deal with the crazy, and if you don't, you're done. And I love a woman that's like that, actually.
And many of them want to deal with it, so hey, go and enjoy yourself.
If you like it, I love it for you.
I do also have a lot of wariness about how people speak about her sexuality or her perceived hypersexuality, considering she is a victim of abuse from her father, specifically. And I don't know too much about her family backstory, but knowing certain dynamics about certain kinds of like hyper-religious families and how they simultaneously project an extreme amount of sexuality onto their daughters whilst also shaping them for it, it creates all sorts of complexes in these kind of women. And so I tend to be very careful about how they speak on it. However, these allegations Chris made that could be read as her coercing him sexually should also not be taken lightly.
Yeah, so to be honest with you, when I saw the Call Me Daddy interview, all I could think was Love Island casting directors are really trash. And it's something that's long been known about reality TV. If you were to cast only healthy people who've never been through anything traumatic and are just all very cuddly and friendly, TV would be boring, let's be honest. We're not going to watch it. So they do have to cast some people that have, you know, sometimes prickly personalities or maybe some trauma even. But when I listened to her interview and also listened to her experience since then, all I could think to myself was, I am not sure that Love Island is the place for someone in her position. I'm not saying that people who have gone through that sort of abuse can't move forward. They can. I understand it's very difficult though. But I do think that the casting directors probably picked her because of the personality that has formed out of everything she's been through.
100%. There's many different red flags that a Huda can give you within a few minutes of speaking to her to make you realize that this is perhaps not the most responsible casting decision to make. But they're not in the business of making responsible casting decisions. They're in the business of creating entertainment. And it worked.
It worked.
The first third of this season was the buzziest opening of a Love Island USA season that ever happened. I had so many people that had never watched the USA seasons coming to me and say, "Ooh, what's all this I'm hearing about this Huda babe? What's all this I'm hearing? What's all this I'm hearing?" So it worked. So from the point of view of producers or the executives at Peacock, it's the sound business decision to make.
Exactly.
There were several points in those first few weeks where she was completely wilding out with Jeremiah, where I was like, really, the objectively healthy decision to do is to pull her out of the show, not to punish her per se, but to create some stability around her. I'm not sure putting her in this pressure cooker that is the Love Island show is the healthiest thing that happened to her. I do suspect some kind of intervention did happen after that period though, because there was a sudden dialing down of temperature after a certain episode that makes me think maybe they sent in someone for her. The fact that that was necessary is that not kind of crazy though?
This is where we as an audience have to look at ourselves as well. We really do have to ask ourselves that, is it the most ethical thing to get entertainment from people who are struggling, let's say, maybe struggling in a difficult situation? But on the flip side, look at Huda's life now. She'll have all the access to therapy and whatever she needs to be healthy.
Did you see her shaking hands with Huda Beauty?
I did, and I loved it. I love the content, and I really hope that she does do well.
I want to talk about the Nic, Olandria, and Cierra of it all, because I have many thoughts.
Let's go.
Well, first of all, before we even get into Nic, Olandria, I just want to briefly talk about Cierra and what I will consider to be selective accountability that was happening this season. The way Cierra was dumped from this villa, I've had this conversation with so many people where I'm like, do you think that is in line with what Love Island typically does? And they all seem to say yes. But as a person that's watched almost every season of Love Island across many different countries, I strongly disagree. I think that was one of the more abrupt, sterile dumpings they've ever done when they pull someone out of the villa. So the reason Cierra was removed was because there was a video circulating of her using a slur towards Asian people to describe her eyes. Apparently, when she initially posted that on her Instagram stories or wherever it was, she quickly took it down because someone slid in her DMs and told her that this is inappropriate. She apologized and she never posted it again. Many months later, Love Island, or years later, Love Island happens, and some up of hers had that in their pocket ready to go, and they released it. The person that was managing Cierra's social media on the outside at the same time is clearly no real friend of hers, because she was making the whole situation worse, saying all sorts of inflammatory things.
Oh no.
At the exact same time this was happening, the fan love for Nic and Olandria as a couple was reaching a feverish high. And as a person who liked Olandria a lot, I won't lie, to some degree I was part of it because I just wanted my girl to stay in the villa, and I knew that they were so popular together that that would be probably the best avenue for it. Now, my thing about that is, why was she removed so abruptly, but Austin got to chill in that villa as long as he wanted? And this man's entire TikTok page was full of some of the most vile, racist, anti-black, xenophobic, hateful content that you could see. But because it was under the umbrella of his political beliefs, it was acceptable. The cynical side of me is the only reason Love Island took action on getting Cierra out because they knew Nic and Olandria were the most popular thing that was happening on the internet at the time. They were getting some amount of pressure from the public. And in my opinion, the women tend to be held to a slightly higher standard than the men. I'm not saying that she should get a pass because men are misbehaving. I am saying that there is some kind of weird, disproportionate accountability that's going on here. That doesn't sit right with me.
And what did you think about Nic and Olandria?
Like I said, Olandria is my girl, so I was just rooting for her. And when it came to her relationship with Taylor, I was seeing many scary signs of women that have been socialized to believe that there's only one kind of love that they can accept or should accept, expect, or tolerate from men, especially men from within their communities.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, some of these women are conditioned to ignore the flags of when these men are actually expressing that they might not be that into you. They could be sexually into you, they could be physically into you, or whatever. They might even like your company or what you do to them, but fundamentally they are not rooting for you to thrive. And that's what I kept on seeing in her dynamic with Taylor, and it was so disturbing for me to witness. There's also currently an epidemic of gorgeous girls letting mid men make them feel like the men are the prize. And I find it very scary to watch. And that's what I felt like I was witnessing there. So when she was forced to snap out of that by the Taylor thing ending in such a bad way, I was like, you know what? At least Nick is visibly obsessed with her on the show. Everybody knows it. The whole dynamic everybody used to talk about is Nick is so obsessed with Olandria, but she basically pays him dust. I would always rather see that than a woman being down bad over a man that's not worth it.
One of the reasons why I stopped watching Love Island is because I realized that black women were setting a trap for ourselves. And that trap is automatically fawning over any man that shows visibly, as you described it, visibly shows a dark-skinned black woman attention. Now, I understand where this is coming from. I myself am a dark-skinned black woman. I understand there's all sorts of dynamics when you live in a non-black majority country, and even sometimes when you live in a black majority country, by the way. What I'm trying to say is, by us having these conversations on public platforms, we are demonstrating to non-black men going onto these shows that all you have to do to get some degree of guaranteed clout is to associate yourself with a dark-skinned black woman. What that then means is we cannot trust what the men are doing visibly on the show. And that's why in the past week alone, we've had Janae and Kenny, Whitney and Lachlan, where it's been exposed that the man was just using them for clout. In the past, we've also had Cindy and Edgar from France, and we've also had Justine and Caleb. And this is going to keep happening as long as men understand that by associating with black women, they're going to get a guaranteed audience on social media, and they'll be able to benefit from the clout of that. All I'm saying is, have higher standards for these men. Simply showing interest in dark-skinned black women shouldn't be enough to get your undying support for them.
All I can say about that Janae and Kenny situation is apparently people had outed him as a Trumpy MAGA Republican last year. And again, I continue to see this very scary narrative that people say that you can remove a person's politics when it comes to stuff like that from their personal beliefs or relationships. And I'm very scared by how people think, because I'm like, how exactly are you separating those two things from each other? Y'all are not scared enough for your well-being for me.